When the shocking news broke that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were ending their 19-year marriage, it sent ripples across the world. Fans were stunned. This was the couple everyone believed would defy the odds. The Hollywood love story that would truly last forever. Yet now, at 58, Nicole has finally spoken about why everything fell apart. Her revelation is not a tabloid scandal, but a deeply human truth, one that carries more pain and honesty than any headline could capture. How their love story began. The story of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban began like a Hollywood romance, but with the heartfelt sincerity of two souls meeting at just the right time. In January 2005, both were honored guests at the GJUSA Gala in Los Angeles. It's an event celebrating Australian talent. Nicole, already a global film icon, and Keith, a rising country music star, crossed paths that evening and, for many, it now feels as though fate itself had orchestrated that meeting. Nicole later confessed that she felt an immediate spark. There was an undeniable attraction that took root almost instantly, but Keith appeared more cautious. Months passed without him reaching out, leaving Nicole to wonder if he simply wasn't interested. Privately, she had already developed a quiet crush, unsure if he felt the same. This waiting period made their eventual connection even more meaningful, slow-burning romance that took its time before truly igniting when Keith finally decided to make a move. He did it in a way Nicole would never forget. On her birthday, while she was in New York City, he arrived at her apartment at 5 in the morning, holding a bouquet of gardenia flowers symbolizing purity and love. For Nicole, that gesture was everything. She said in later interviews that at that very moment, she was a goner. Any hesitation disappeared. She knew what they shared was more than attraction, it was real love. Their relationship blossomed quickly. By May 2006, Keith had proposed, and Nicole said yes. A month later, on June 25th, they exchanged vows in a candlelit church in Sydney, surrounded by family and friends. The wedding blended Hollywood elegance with Australian warmth. Nicole's children from her previous marriage to Tom Cruise, Isabella and Connor, were present, making it a complete family celebration. The images from that day showed a couple glowing with happiness and to the world. It looked like they had discovered a once-in-a-lifetime love. But even amid that joy, early challenges appeared. Only months after the wedding, Keith checked into rehab to battle his long-standing addiction issues. It was a pivotal moment that could have torn them apart, but Nicole stood firmly by him. She chose loyalty, compassion, and love over walking away. That choice strengthened their bond and showed the depth of her devotion. They faced addiction, public scrutiny, and personal trials together, and though they appeared to triumph, those early struggles were also silent warnings of challenges yet to come. Building a family, careers, and shared dreams. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's relationship became more than a romance. It was a partnership built on shared dreams, family, and ambition. When they married, Nicole was already a devoted mother to her adopted children, Isabella and Connor. Starting a new life with Keith gave her a chance to rediscover the sense of home she had long yearned. They welcomed their first daughter, Sunday Rose, and 2 years later, their second daughter, Faith Margaret, was born. Their blended family was filled with energy, laughter, and love. Nicole often said motherhood grounded her and gave her purpose beyond fame. She cherished the chance to be a mother again later in life, finding peace in nurturing her children. Keith shared that sentiment, often expressing his love for Nicole and their daughters through his music, his lyrics quietly honoring the family he adored. Their careers continued to flourish alongside their family life. Nicole entered a new golden phase in her acting journey, taking on complex roles that showcased her depth and versatility. Films like Rabbit Hole earned her another Oscar nomination, while her work in Big Little Lies won her both Golden Globe and Emmy Awards. She proved herself not only as a movie star, but as a commanding force in television as well. Keith's career, meanwhile, was soaring. His albums dominated country charts, his tours filled stadiums, and his performances earned him Grammys and CMA awards. He even became a household name outside the music world as a judge on American Idol. His songs often reflected his personal life, with subtle dedications to Nicole and their family. blending artistry with vulnerability. But success came with a price. Their careers often pulled them in opposite directions, Nicole, filming for months overseas while Keith toured across continents. Despite the distance, they did everything possible to stay connected. Video calls, handwritten letters, and surprise visits kept their love alive. They spoke often about making family time sacred, ensuring their daughters always felt the warmth of home no matter where they were in the world. Still, the strain of separation lingered, a shadow that never quite disappeared. Publicly, they seemed inseparable. Whether walking hand in hand down red carpets or exchanging quiet glances during award shows, they radiated affection. Nicole often called Keith her deep, deep love, while Keith referred to Nicole as his anchor and muse. To the world, they were the image of everlasting devotion. Yet behind the smiles and awards, cracks were beginning to form. When love doesn't solve everything for years, Nicole and Keith managed to balance fame, family, and distance. They were masters at making it look effortless, but over time the weight became too heavy to bear. Nicole's acting commitments kept her overseas for long stretches, especially during the filming of Practical Magic 2 in London. Meanwhile, Keith's High and Alive world tour took him across countries for months on end. Slowly, the time apart began to exceed the time together. Subtle signs of strain became visible to fans. Keith abruptly ended a radio interview when asked about Nicole, hanging up mid-conversation. Their anniversary tributes, once overflowing with affection, became shorter or disappeared entirely. In interviews, Keith appeared uneasy when questioned about their marriage, as if trying to hide a pain he didn't want to face publicly. For a couple once so expressive about their love, the growing silence spoke volumes. The distance between them was no longer just physical, it was emotional. Nicole, who had always been steadfast and loyal, began to feel a quiet ache of abandonment. The marriage that had survived addiction, fame, and distance was now collapsing under emotional fatigue. Love was still present. It was no longer enough to hold everything together. The breaking point, by the summer of 2025, Keith Urban reportedly moved out of their shared home, leaving Nicole and their daughters behind. To the public, it looked like another temporary separation caused by work. But those close to them knew it was different. This was a deliberate step back, quiet but decisive break from a marriage that had been unraveling for years. Nicole, ever composed in public, was privately clinging to the last threads of what they once had. It was then that she realized something painful, yet undeniable sometimes. Even the strongest love stories reach their final chapter, and for Nicole Kidman, the truth of why her 19-year marriage ended wasn't rooted in scandal or betrayal. It was a story about time, distance, and the quiet erosion that happens when two people grow apart while still loving each other deeply, in the fragile hope of repairing the cracks. In her marriage, Nicole tried desperately to hold on to what she and Keith once had. She leaned on her family for strength, reaching for the connection that had once defined their bond, believing that love could carry them through yet another storm. But her efforts were met not with warmth, but with distance. Those close to her revealed that Nicole was blindsided by how swiftly Keith began building a new version of his life, one that no longer revolved around their marriage. For Nicole, living apart wasn't simply about physical separation. It was a painful symbol of something deeper. It marked the beginning of the end, and deep down, she knew it. The final blow arrived in late September 2025. On September 30th, Nicole officially filed for divorce after 19 years of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. The announcement sent shockwaves through Hollywood, leaving fans stunned. They had always been seen as one of the industry's strongest and most enduring couples, a pair who had weathered addiction battles, the relentless pressures of fame, and long stretches of distance. Yet, behind the polished red carpet smiles, the reality was far more fragile. The marriage had reached a point where neither of them could hold on any longer. Divorce papers were eventually signed, but that was only the beginning. There were still complicated matters to settle: legal agreements, custody decisions, and financial arrangements that would reshape their lives. The legal landscape and custody arrangements. Legal phase of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's separation began to take shape in late September 2025. On the surface, The paperwork used a familiar and understated phrase, irreconcilable differences. It's a phrase often chosen by celebrities to preserve privacy and simplicity. But for anyone who had followed their story, their candlelit wedding in Sydney, their shared triumphs, their family built on love and resilience, it was clear that those two words concealed a world of heartbreak. At the center of the divorce filings were their two daughters, Sunday, now 17, and Faith, 14. Reports indicate that Nicole will continue in her role as the primary residential parent, as she has for most of their marriage while juggling motherhood with her demanding film career. Under the custody agreement, the children will reportedly spend around 306 days each year with Nicole, while Keith will have approximately 59. Those numbers reflect not only their professional realities but also the emotional truth that the girls' sense of stability has always been rooted with their mother. Yet seeing these arrangements reduced to numbers on paper made the division all the more painful. A reminder that a once unified family was now being split into separate worlds. Alongside that, the custody plan came the intricate process of dividing assets and financial holdings. Both Nicole and Keith have achieved extraordinary success, owning multiple homes across the globe from Nashville to Sydney, Beverly Hills to New York. Once symbols of shared dreams, these homes now stand as assets to be divided. Reports suggest that both have agreed to forego spousal support, a clear indication that each is financially independent and ready to move forward without the burden of alimony. While the finer points of property division are still unfolding, the larger picture is unmistakable. Two lives once deeply intertwined are now being carefully separated, piece by piece. The legal documents define what their lives will look like after the marriage. But the real story lies in what Nicole has since revealed about why she needed to take this step. What Nicole Kidman has admitted in the wake of her divorce. Nicole Kidman has begun to open up, peeling back the flawless image of her marriage to reveal the vulnerability of a woman who has known both great love and deep heartbreak. For years, the public saw a perfect picture to beloved Australians raising a family and managing glittering careers with grace. But behind that image, Nicole admits, the cracks had been forming long before the official split. One of the most painful revelations is her sense of betrayal. Sources close to her say this feeling wasn't only about Keith's actions, but about how certain decisions were made quickly, quietly, and without the openness she had expected from a partner of nearly 2 decades. The decision to live apart, for example, reportedly came as a shock. For Nicole, the betrayal wasn't just in the act of separation itself, but in the gradual erosion of trust and communication, the very foundation of their marriage. When she speaks about irreconcilable differences, Nicole does so with more weight than any legal phrase could convey. To her, these differences were not vague or superficial. They were about respect, emotional safety, and the kind of mutual support that sustains love over the long haul. She came to realize that even the deepest love cannot survive without those pillars. In admitting this, Nicole acknowledges a difficult truth. Sometimes love alone cannot fix what is fundamentally broken. At 58, Nicole's perspective has evolved. She is no longer the young actress navigating fame or the newlywed determined to protect her marriage at all costs. She has grown more grounded, wiser, and willing to speak her truth. This maturity gives her the strength to reflect honestly, to admit where things fell apart, and to put her emotional health, as well as her daughter's well-being, above appearances. Yet, Nicole's reflections are not one-sided. She has reportedly acknowledged her own role in the challenges of their marriage. Recognizing the strain of living under constant public scrutiny, what stands out most is her clarity about what she needed and did not receive, moments when she felt unheard, unseen, or emotionally dismissed. Her honesty underscores a simple but profound belief: marriages don't survive on perfection, but on mutual understanding and respect. From her perspective, the greatest takeaway from this painful chapter is the importance of authenticity over image. At this point in her life, Nicole values truth and independence far more than maintaining the illusion of a flawless partnership. Her statements are not about assigning blame, they're about speaking her truth. With quiet courage, she has turned vulnerability into empowerment, refusing to let her story be defined by loss. Instead, she's redefining it through growth, self-awareness, and resilience. Nicole has now spoken her truth, but what happens next will reveal whether that truth leads to healing, reinvention, or a completely new beginning. What's next for Nicole and Keith for? Nicole Kidman. This is not the end of her story, it's the start of a new chapter. The divorce papers may mark the close of a marriage, but what comes next could shape her more profoundly than the 19 years she spent with Keith Urban. In the immediate aftermath of the split, Nicole has turned to the people who have always grounded her, especially her sister, Antonia, who has been her steady anchor through life's storms. Family has become Nicole's central focus once again, particularly her daughters, Sunday and Faith. Those close to her say her priority is to give them love, consistency, and emotional stability. Even as the family dynamic shifts, professionally, Nicole's future is equally compelling. With decades of success behind her, she may now choose projects that resonate more personally, stories about resilience, transformation, and emotional truth. Industry insiders speculate that her next roles could reflect her own evolution, blurring the line between art and life. Fans and critics alike will likely see echoes of her personal journey in her upcoming performances, perhaps with a newfound emotional depth born from experience. On the practical side, co-parenting will now define much of her day-to-day life. With primary custody, Nicole's schedule will form the foundation of the family's rhythm. Keith, though allotted fewer days, will still remain present. Managing to international careers and parenting responsibilities will require careful coordination. Holidays, birthdays, and school events will all need to be negotiated rather than shared naturally as before. As with any high-profile breakup, public perception looms large, while neither has given a full statement. Many anticipate that Nicole may eventually share her story in an interview marked by reflection and grace rather than scandal. Her reputation for honesty and dignity suggests that when she does speak, her words will carry meaning not as tabloid fodder, but as an extension of her legacy. Beyond her career and family, Nicole's personal journey may prove the most transformative. Divorce, especially after nearly 2 decades, demands reinvention. Yet at this stage of her life, it might also bring freedom, the kind that allows her to set firmer boundaries, deepen meaningful relationships, and embrace new creative or romantic possibilities. Some believe reconciliation with Keith could one day happen, as time has a way of changing perspectives. Though many close to the couple view this as a definitive ending, for Keith Urban, the path forward appears quieter, at least for now. His music career continues, but questions about how he will balance fatherhood, sobriety, and life without Nicole remain. The contrast between Nicole's quiet openness and Keith's measured silence will likely keep the public intrigued. For Nicole, the path ahead is one of quiet reinvention, a period of rediscovering who she is outside of the roles of wife, mother, and global star. After nearly 2 decades of partnership, she now stands at a crossroads where solitude doesn't signify loss, but freedom. Those close to her say that she has found comfort in simplicity, long walks, time spent in nature, and evenings surrounded by the people who truly know her. She has learned that healing isn't a single event. It's a gradual process of returning to oneself, of learning to breathe again without the weight of compromise. Professionally, this chapter may mark a new artistic awakening. Nicole's ability to channel raw emotion has always been her signature, but the emotional depth born from this personal upheaval could inspire her most powerful performances yet. Directors and producers are reportedly eager to collaborate with her on projects that mirror themes of strength, resilience, and rebirth. It's easy to imagine her next role reflecting the very lessons she's living. That vulnerability and courage often exist side by side, and that true beauty lies in authenticity. Her daughters, Sunday and Faith, remain at the heart of everything she does. For Nicole, being their anchor is not just a duty, but a promise to give them stability, love, and the sense that even when families evolve, love remains constant. Sources close to her say she's determined to ensure that her daughters never feel caught between two worlds. Instead, She hopes they will see this transition as proof that honesty and self-respect are never mistakes, even when they come at the cost of comfort. Meanwhile, Keith's world looks different. While his career continues, insiders suggest he's entering a quieter phase, one of reflection and self-evaluation. His fans have long admired his openness about his struggles with addiction and recovery, and now those themes may resurface in his music. New songs could serve as his emotional outlet, revealing a man processing both regret and acceptance. Despite the separation, Keith remains deeply connected to his daughters, striving to maintain presence and balance in their lives despite the physical distance as both move forward. What remains between them is not animosity, but a complicated mix of history, gratitude, and grief. Their marriage was once a beacon of endurance in an industry where relationships often collapse under pressure. They faced some of life's hardest battles together: addiction, fame, and public scrutiny, and though they did not survive as a couple, their shared years will always stand as a testament to love's transformative power. For the public, their separation serves as a sobering reminder that even the most seemingly perfect unions can reach breaking points. The truth is, love is not a static state. It's a living thing that must be nurtured, communicated, and evolved. And when that evolution stops, so does the connection. Nicole's courage to acknowledge that truth, to walk away rather than pretend, has earned her not pity, but admiration. As she steps into this next phase of her life, Nicole seems to be embracing something profoundly human: the beauty of imperfection. She has spoken of choosing honesty over illusion, peace over pretense. It's a message that resonates not just with fans, but with anyone who has ever loved deeply and lost bravely. Hollywood will undoubtedly continue to speculate about her future, her career, even potential romances. But Nicole appears uninterested in public approval. Those who know her best say she's focusing on what feels real: her family, her craft, and her peace of mind. In her words, this is not a story of failure, but of transformation. Sometimes letting go is not the end of love. It's the beginning of self-respect. As for Keith, time will tell how this chapter shapes him. He has always expressed himself best through music. It's likely that his next album will carry echoes of this heartbreak, not as bitterness, but as reflection. Those who've seen him perform recently say there's a new stillness in him, a quiet introspection that perhaps signals acceptance rather than resistance. Both Nicole and Keith are now walking separate roads. Yet those paths are not defined by what was lost, but by what each will discover. Their story, from the electric spark of their early romance to the bittersweet calm of their farewell, reminds us that even the strongest bonds can evolve into something different, something quieter, yet still meaningful in time. The noise surrounding their divorce will fade. The tabloids will move on. But what will remain is the story of two people who dared to love deeply, struggled openly, and in the end, chose truth over illusion. It's not the fairy tale ending fans once imagined, but perhaps it's something far more real: two souls finding their way back to themselves.